has put out this statement saying that he has directed all available state resources, and you can see many of them, a great number of police at the high school to respond to the incident, and he urges all Georgians to join his family in praying for the safety of those in those classrooms, both in Barrow County and across the state. He promises that the state will continue to work with local, state, and federal partners as they gather information and further respond to this situation. But you are watching this in real time. You can see the traffic stopped. You can see the police out there. We just saw, I believe, 2 ambulances leave the scene. But these are certainly terrifying, but all too familiar moments at an American school today. Peter?
And as we're speaking to you, Ann, we are seeing these pictures again from the campus of Appalachia High School. As you noted, just shy of 2,000 students there. Many of them clearly have been directed to the track and the football field there, where they appear to be wandering around, though, in a restricted area pretty freely at this point. Jim, I want to get to you right now. Obviously, what we're seeing is an evacuation. We're still waiting for better information about exactly what the scene is. No specific detail about whether, in fact, there has been a shooting that's taken place or what other incident may have occurred there. But just based on your law enforcement expertise, tell us what you're seeing and the way the police presence is sort of addressing whatever the situation is.
Yeah, right, Peter. Well, that large number of officers that I see there, I see the sheriff, and I saw the state patrol, GBI, and the multiple SWAT teams, the command vehicles. They have had some violence at this school, it looks like. This is not a report of someone with a gun that fizzled out. This looks like something's happened seriously. They've evacuated a large number of people to what they've determined to be a safe zone back over by the football field, and officers are, between them and the main school building, Peter. So,
and Jim, I want to interrupt you briefly, just because we're getting information, even as you and I are speaking, even as we're speaking, my producer in my ear, if you can repeat what you said. But what I'm being told right now from the local law enforcement, the sheriff's department there, says that they are responding to what they describe as a school shooting. No more details yet from this one student. Now we're being told that at least one individual has been taken into custody right now. Does not make clear whether, in fact, there were other individuals who were involved in this. We don't know whether anybody has been hurt at this point. But again, well, now it continues to come in. We can now confirm that there have been reports of that the sheriff's department says there are multiple injuries there. We do not know the conditions of those individuals. But again, to be clear, just to reset this at the top of the noon hour Eastern time right now, we are looking at a Georgia high school. This is Appalachia High School. This is between Atlanta and Athens in a community known, a community called Winder. As you see the evacuation that's taken place, the sheriff's department is now telling us that at least one individual has been taken into custody right now. No specific details on that individual or whether, in fact, they are looking for others who may have been involved in this school shooting that the sheriff's department has taken place there. We know that there are multiple injuries. Let's get back to Jim Kavanaugh for any more details you can share with us.
Right, Peter. So, building on our discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jim, I'm interrupting you. Let me get right to Ann. It's happening in real time. Let me get to Ann Thompson, who has new details. Ann, please go ahead.
Yeah, Peter, we have some more details about how this unfolded from the Barrow County Sheriff's Office. The incident apparently happened at 10:23 this morning. Officers, it says, from multiple law enforcement agencies were dispatched to the high school to a reported active shooting. At the time, as you said, one suspect is in custody. It does not identify that suspect as a student or anyone else. It just says one suspect is in custody. There are casualties. However, details on the number of casualties or their conditions are not available at this time. And I can also tell you that the FBI office in Atlanta says it is aware of the situation and its agents are on the scene coordinating with local and state officials. So as we said earlier, and as Jim has noted, there is a very major police presence at this incident as we watch students and I assume faculty members there gather on the athletic field outside Appalachia High School. Peter?
So, Jim, I want to go back to you based on that new information we're hearing from my colleague Ann Thompson about this active shooter that was reported first at about 10:23, so just shy of 2 hours ago, about an hour and 45 minutes ago. Again, we're told that one suspect is in custody. Jim, I'm struck as we look at this. It's clear that the individuals who are on that that field there and on the track are sort of allowed to roam free a bit. It's obvious, it appears, that this incident is believed to have taken place elsewhere, perhaps inside the school itself. Again, your reaction as you're seeing what we're witnessing happening in real time right now.
Well, the on-scene commanders have, faith that that's a safe area for the people they've evacuated there. And they believe that they have the situation. There's a line of police cars between that stadium and the school building, and there's their officers there. So they believe that's a safe area. They also have some violence, as Ann's reported. There's injuries, and the initial report was, a man with a gun, person with a gun. So they've got some injuries, they've got violence, and now they've got to determine, one in custody, they've got to determine, is he alone? Secondly, did he plant or place any kind of improvised explosive devices either at the school or at other place in the city? His home, his vehicle. These are not uncommon things. We saw it in Butler, Pennsylvania, where the shooter had 2 bombs in his car. We've seen it in Columbine with multiple bombs, and on many other things. So it's not quite over, although most of the students here look safe. We don't know the extent of injuries yet. Hopefully the commanders will come out soon and tell the public and the families. They'll establish a family center where families will go to get notified if their children have been injured or killed, and they should announce that pretty soon.
And Jim, as we're speaking to you, I've been going online right now, just looking at the Barrow County Schools District, and based on its reporting, the school year in that county began on the first day of August. So they're already in the beginning of a second month of school, as many American families, many Americans are sending their kids off to their first week of school post-Labor Day, others starting just before that. This school district there, it appears, has already been in session for at least a month so far right now, which is striking to me, given the fact that, at least for my children and many others, among the first things that happen in a new school year, given the sort of state of our society and the fears of school shootings, are the preparations that take place, the drills. Already I'm hearing from students in the community where I live that among the first things they did upon returning to school was have some of these school shooting drills taking place right now. We should note, according to Education Week, its analysis says that in advance of today, there had been 22 school shootings this year to date that had resulted in injuries or death. You compare that to 38 school shootings with injuries or deaths last year, which would appear to make you think that we are at a better pace this year. But of course, school's been out for most of the last several months, and now there's several months of school to go. This has become a very real part of the American experience, sadly, the American educational experience as well. Again, we're looking at those live pictures from Winder, Georgia. You can see in Appalachia High School right now, the chopper view giving us a sense of the emergency vehicles on scene. And Jim, I want to ask you a bit about this right now. Clearly, it's too early for us to know what the security precautions exist at that school, but certainly high schools in particular around this country have taken unique precautions right now, given the real fear of school shootings taking place. And Jim, as we speak to you, you can see these officers who are walking not with the same type of urgency you would expect if they thought there was, excuse me, still an active shooter on scene.
It's a great observation, and you're exactly right. At least in the area we're observing, the on-scene commanders have determined that that's safe. Now, they've still posted officers there, but they don't believe those officers are in any danger of, taking rifle fire or anything like that. I think the fact that they have this one person in custody has given them some, sense of they're able to now sweep the buildings the way they want. There's a large indoor facility here, and SWAT teams have to sweep every corner. There still could be students and teachers barricaded safely in their rooms, and they should stay there until they can verify that it is the police coming to their door. They should be able to hear the radio. They should be able to, see their badge through the window or slid under the door or something. And so it's slowed down quite a bit. So you're exactly right. Mm-hmm.
I was just going to say, as we look at this, I mean, we can't identify exactly where this took place, but it does appear that these students appear that they're lining up with some anticipation they may be allowed to depart at some point. The officers walking, as you indicated, without the same type of urgency. They're not hiding behind vehicles. They're not with their backs to walls preparing to enter other parts of this building right now. It looks, at least from this view, that whatever situation existed there is under control in some form. I want to get to Frank Figluzzi about what we're witnessing here, Frank, right now. Obviously, a lot of this is just based on what we're able to see observationally right now, but it is a real reminder about a challenge that campuses across this country are facing and law enforcement across this country has been forced to grapple with. Frank, I'm going to get to you. I'm told Ann Thompson has a little bit of new information. Ann, go ahead, please.
Yeah, Peter, this comes from our investigative reporters, Tom Winter and Jonathan Dienst, and citing law enforcement officials who've been briefed on the Georgia investigation at Appalachian High School. They say that the initial information on scene, and I would remind you that this is preliminary and it's subject to change, but their sources are telling them that at least 2 people have been killed and at least 4 others have been injured as a result of the shooting at the school. We have no other information than that on the identities of the 2 who are supposedly dead and the 4 who are injured. We don't know if they are students or teachers. At this point, we do know, and the Georgia Bureau of Investigations has confirmed this in the last 5 minutes, that there is 1 suspect in custody. We do not know if he or she is among those killed or injured. And at this point, both Jonathan and Tom report that there is no initial word on motive. Again, from Jonathan Dienst and Tom Winter, our investigative reporters, their sources telling them that at least 2 people are dead and at least 4 people have been injured in this school shooting. That's what we've got at this moment. Peter?
Well, sadly, another fact of life coming true for another community being forced to grapple with the loss of life due to a school shooting, on campus. Again, Ann Thompson sharing the details reported by our investigative team of 2 people killed, at least 4 other individuals injured. We know, again, as we've reported, that 1 suspect is believed to be in custody right now. No further detail about whether there are any other suspects who were involved in the shooting that took place there, whether, in fact, the shooter was among those who whether he or she was injured, whether there was any exchange of gunfire at this point. But Frank Figliuzzi, again, going back to you right now that it's been confirmed by law enforcement through our teams that there are deaths in this school shooting, it's another devastating reminder as a new school season, a new school year begins in this country.
Yeah, parents around the country this week are sending their children back to school for what is often the first week of school, depending on where you live. And communities continue to have to wrestle with the issue of, look, how much security do we truly need? How much of it is realistic for us? Do we need magnetometers? And so they study all of these shootings. We'll want to know how this weapon entered the school grounds, if it entered the building itself, and could that have been prevented? Right now, in the immediate aftermath, we're still, as Jim said, you still have to clear that building. You still have to let people know inside that it's okay to come out. The sheriff's office has said they do have 1 in custody. The fact that we're seeing scenes of students milling about the football field in an open area tells us, of course, that the sheriffs are convinced that there's not a threat to that area. That's really good news. Next step, reunite those students with their parents within a designated family reunification area. And then comes the hard work of investigation. Why? What's the motive? What triggered this? Were the victims of this shooting specifically targeted, and if so, why? Were they administrators? Were they students? Who was the shooter? An employee that was fired, a parent who's upset, or a juvenile who's a student at the high school? That will help us learn more about prevention and what maybe could have happened. I said after the Parkland shooting in Florida, the eyes and ears, the best warning signs and indicators of trouble will come from fellow students and teachers and guidance counselors who, in the Parkland case, were absolutely waving their arms, saying something bad is going to happen with this young man. We'll learn more about this and the access to the gun. Was it legally purchased? Did it come from a parent? We simply don't know. I know this, Georgia does not have red flag laws, extreme risk laws that would permit a concerned family member to say, or even a teacher to say, this child or this person has a weapon, and I think we need to figure this out. Georgia doesn't have that capability.
You know, Frank, it's interesting as you raise that, the topic of red flag warnings and the desire right now by the current president, President Biden, Kamala Harris, who now is the top of the Democratic ticket, that this has been an issue that has been a major motivator, certainly over the course of the last several years. And again, it's a reminder about the sort of the inability of American government, of Congress, alongside the White House, to really be able to create the progress and the protocols necessary nationwide to help avoid incidents of this type from occurring right now. Jim Kavanaugh, to you, obviously, as you talk about red flag warnings are one way to try to communicate this. Their desires to have further background checks sometimes and to limit the access that younger people have to weapons, obviously, whether they should be locked up in homes and beyond right now. As you look at this again, we can, based on what we're seeing, it appears clear no weapons are drawn. The officers are walking freely alongside others who do not appear to be in any body armor, any SWAT team members as well. It looks like this is now the beginning of the investigative process as they try to go in there and help clear this scene, so those who may have been trapped inside their classrooms, locked inside, certainly terrified right now, can begin to resume their day, likely to be questioned and also to be reunited with their families. What more are we not doing? What is not yet done in this country that we can do to better avoid moments like what we're witnessing from happening?
Well, common sense gun safety laws and good red flag laws all help to stop gun violence. That's a proven fact. So that should all happen. But secondly, many of these can be stopped if leaders, and I'm talking about from the White House all the way down to the sheriffs and chiefs of police, the state trooper commanders, federal agent commanders, district attorneys, in each area of a county, a city, a few small counties band together, they all should have a permanent small task force of, designated lieutenant from the police, from the sheriff's department, a state investigative agency, ATF, FBI representatives, DA, U.S. attorney, local psychologists, school board psychologists, and depending on the volume of level of activity in their area, they can meet once a week, once every 2 weeks, once every day, but they need to have a core group that is trained to recognize the leakage that comes out of 70% of these killers. And the FBI study said 70% of these guys leak their intentions prior to their violence. And when that leak comes out, instead of the way we have it now, who do you call? Who am I going to call? I'll just call a patrol officer. What happens to that information? He writes a report. Maybe somebody acts on it. Maybe somebody doesn't. And it's a mishmash in 50 states and, hundreds of counties. It should go to the core group who's trained in it and say, yes, this looks like a leakage to me. This looks like a person on the edge to me. Let's talk to the psychologist who's on our team. Let's talk to the negotiator who's on our team. Let's bring in the DA. Do we have a threat charge here? Can we stop this? Can we talk to the kid? Let's interview the family. A proactive, specially designated group in every jurisdiction can manage the of activity. And we don't do it. Why don't we do it? That doesn't cost money. The people are already employed. They can be assigned to it. And if leaders around the country would stand up and do that, I think we would reduce the number. Now, we're not going to eliminate them totally, but that coupled with some good red flag laws and gun safety legislation would help a lot. So it's proactive. Of course, security at the buildings, it's another issue and should be addressed as well. But I guarantee that, this kid probably leaked something to another student. If they reported it to a teacher, where does it go? To the principal? It should go that every single stakeholder knows, every teacher knows, every cop knows, every deputy knows, every trooper knows. When you get this kind of stuff, it goes to the special task force that's formed in our area. And if it does, they'll know somebody on it. It's their lieutenant, it's their trooper, it's their agent, it's their assistant DA. So it'll go right into that spot. And then you train those people up, train them up, send them to training, get them smart, and give them the tools, and they'll stop more of these.
And again, Jim, as we go online, scroll through social media, you can see already the statements, prayers for the victims there, concern for those at least 4 individuals who have been injured as a result of the school shooting taking place just outside of Atlanta in Winder, Georgia. Again, Appalachia High School right now. I want to ask you, if I can, Jim, a bit more about this. Actually, Frank, perhaps you can help us better understand this. And it relates specifically to the drills and what schools do right now. I'm struck as a parent myself. I remember, I'll never forget it, bringing our child when she was just a kindergartner to school, her first experience at an elementary school. And she came back from one of her first days at school and she said, "Hey, Dad, today we learned how to hibernate." They effectively learned how to be like a bear, hibernating, being as silent as they could in the corner of their classroom behind their desks. Not old enough to understand why they would be doing this, not old enough to understand the threat that exists in this country right now. These, of course, are high school students. They have spent most of their school years now with this type of fear. What do they do in these drills, and what are they doing to try to better fortify or change the way schools address this threat going forward?
Yeah, we now sadly have an entire generation that has been raised on some form of active shooter, lockdown drill, and that's the first time in our nation's history that we have that group in our society raised that way. You mentioned age-appropriate drills, which is really essential. The purpose here is not to scare young children. So the drills have to be very age appropriate. And yes, it's quite popular to use kind of the animal that got loose on campus. It's kind of fun. It can be whimsical. Who's the best hider? Who can stay more quiet so the bear doesn't hear us, or the tiger doesn't hear us? I've seen that work very effectively. You need not scare young children. But once you've reached this high school population, they are attuned to the issue. And that drill does have to happen, does have to include some smart concepts like, do we run? I think very often the barricade, of course, is the first response, but we need to take that to the next step and give teachers some guidance beyond that. I've seen some very successful programs where the students actually help barricade doors, push desks up against the doors. The window shades come down. Any noise is turned down. Cell phones go down. So that's very, very important. But the other thing, I cannot emphasize enough what Jim said. I had the privilege as head of an FBI field office to bring school resource officers together with school nurses, with guidance counselors and principals of schools, sometimes for the first time in the same room, which was to my amazement, and have them create these response teams so that a concern might be raised by a school nurse, by a teacher, by a counselor, and would go immediately to this group for assessment on what to do. And that should be one of the first things that parents, through their PTAs and school board interactions, say, hey, do we have such an assessment group? Can they meet in a quick phone call if necessary to assess a concern about a student, even a parent or a teacher or a janitor, whatever it is? Do we have that mechanism here? That is essential.
Frank Figliuzzi, Jim Kavanaugh, Ann Thompson, I'm going to ask you guys to stay with us right now. To our audience who's joining us live on MSNBC, we're going to take a short break, but before we do, very quickly, an update on what we are witnessing right now. At least 2 people, we are told by law enforcement officials there in Winder, Georgia, have been killed. It's at the Appalachia High School campus, about 45 miles outside of Atlanta. 4 others injured as a result of this shooting. We are told that at least one person, one individual, is currently in custody. You're watching live coverage of the shooting at Appalachia High School. Again, we'll take a short break and be right back.
You've got your Sunday obsession, and we got you. Now with Verizon, get NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube TV on us. And a great deal on Galaxy Z Fold 6 for a total value of $1,250. Only on Verizon.
See you Sunday. There are some feelings you can get with any sportsbook. Oh, the highs! No. The no-no-nos. Oh! The oh-oh-ohs. Now, what you want to do with this? But the feeling that no matter what, you're taken care of.
Oh, I just earned a hotel suite.
You only get that here at the sportsbook born in Vegas, Well, they know how to treat you right. Who you talking to, Jamie Foxx?
Bonus bets, exclusive offers, real-world rewards. BetMGM. Download and bet today.
Whether you're in your 40s, 50s, or 60s and beyond, I know you're seeing changes in the skin on your body. Don't panic. It's never too late to transform yourself and your skin. And Crepe Erase is here to do just that.
Crepe Erase has been delivering smoother, firmer, younger-looking skin for almost a decade.
Did you know that Crepe Erase is America's #1 selling anti-aging body treatment system for dry, crepey skin? That's because it works, people.
The Crepe Erase two-step system is clinically shown to reduce crepey-looking skin the very first time you use it.
I just love my skin. I didn't love it before. I love it now.
And now there's big news. We're introducing the Skin Revitalizing Tool, specially designed to amplify the power of Crepe Erase.
This is the Skin Revitalizing Tool. It is new and it is free. Yes, you heard me right. It's free when you get the products.
Crepe Erase is already an incredible deal at only $49.95. But when you order today, we'll send you the Skin Revitalizing Tool, a $129 value free.
I mean, it's like having a spa in your hand.
And you'll also receive our luxurious neck repair treatment, a $49 value free.
Since using Crepe Erase, the skin on my neck looks airbrushed. I love it.
These two incredible bonuses are valued together at $178, but they're our free gift to you.
Crepe Erase is something I recommend to my patients because it works.
Don't wait. Get all this, a $247 value for only $49.95, plus free shipping.
If you're not reveling in your younger-looking, soft and sexy skin, just return the bottles, even if they're used up and empty, and we'll give you your money back.
This is a limited time offer that will not last. Scan the QR code, call, or go to crepeerase.com and order right now.
When is my allergy spray gonna kick in?
You need Astapro.
Astapro?
It's faster, bro. 8 times faster than Flonase.
It's faster, bro.
It's faster, bro.
It's faster, bro.
It's mom to you.
Astapro starts working in 30 minutes. Astapro and go.
This bakery needs new equipment fast to keep up with demand. So they're going to On Deck, the online lender that makes it easy to choose your loan and, if approved, get funds as soon as the same day. Your loan is on deck.
Or what if we move ballet?
Hold on and let me think.
We just have too many children.
Ugh, we have one child and that's not funny.
It's funny. It's just not constructive.
We need a miracle.
Miracle every Thursday starting at 2:45.
Can I tell you something?
Sure.
I hate this calendar.
Find childcare that fits your schedule at care.com.
Want the effects of Viagra, but faster? Meet Rose Sparks. They contain sildenafil and tadalafil, but Sparks dissolve under the tongue. Dissolvables work faster than old school pills. Connect with a medical provider at ro.co/sparks.
I've always loved election nights. Every election night reveals a story about the candidates, about the campaign that we just watched, but it reveals a story about the voters who decided the election, what mattered to them, what didn't matter to them, what they prioritized. The presidential election is America's family photo. We take one every 4 years, and we can look back over time and we can see who and what the country was and where it was just on the presidential election.
We're back now with more breaking news here on MSNBC from Georgia, where a shooting at a high school, Appalachia High School, has left at least 2 people dead, according to law enforcement officials, and 4 others injured. We know that one person right now, one suspect, is in custody, according to law enforcement there. And joining us is NBC's Tom Winter, national law enforcement and intelligence correspondent here at NBC. NBC correspondent Ann Thompson, retired ATF special agent in charge Jim Kavanaugh, and former FBI assistant director Frank Figluzzi. And Frank, as we're going to talk to all of you right now, I want to tell our audience that in that course of that commercial break, we had a chance to watch some more of these live pictures feeding in from the scene. We did see an ambulance where an individual was on a stretcher, taken into that ambulance, that individual sitting upright, appearing to be conscious at the time. Tom Winter, part of our investigative team, has been speaking to his sources. Tom, as we look at these live pictures, it appears that the situation has been resolved, even as they try to clear the scene there. What specifically are you learning at this time?
That's exactly right, Peter. And so the initial indication, and it's always difficult when these school shootings happen for the very reason that you're looking at on screen right there. You're looking at a large number of students who are fleeing a scene, fleeing what is going on, leaving the school. And so it can sometimes be a little bit difficult as investigators and law enforcement officials get on scene to try to determine who may have been injured, what type of scene they're looking at. So the information that we're reporting is preliminary and it's subject to change. Certainly we hope that the numbers come down because anytime we're talking about a school shooting, it's certainly tragic. But we're told at this hour, as of 12:30 Eastern time, there's initial indications of 2 dead and perhaps 4 injured. Those numbers, of course, may change. One thing that is certain, according to the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, they are saying that the suspect is in custody. Now, whether the suspect is part of those casualties or not is still a little bit unclear. And so that's information that we're trying to get. We don't have an identity of that individual or any particular motive for this shooting, but that's the initial indications that we're getting from the scene, is that this has been a fatal shooting. And of course, Peter, as you well know, because we've done this unfortunately so many times, that come early August, mid-August into early September, we always kind of wait for some of the first school shootings of the year because it's been something that we've continued to report on over the last decade plus or so as these have become unfortunately more common. But what officials are doing there on the ground is they're going through the school, obviously getting the students out, making sure that they have everybody accounted for that they need to, and conduct any searches that they might need to after that point. And then once they have a tally of the students and can put together who's in good condition and who's ready to go home, they'll obviously be able to make that determination. And I think the most important thing that we've learned, unfortunately, from school shootings where the law enforcement response has been critical or criticized, I should say, is that the sooner you can get students out of there and address the threat, the better. And so we'll need to do more reporting and learn more about what happened here today and the response to this. But that's what we have so far.
Tom Winter, one of our lead investigators here at NBC News. Tom, thank you. While you were speaking, we have now heard from the White House confirming that President Biden has been briefed on the shooting having taken place there at Appalachian High School in Winder, Georgia. And Thompson, my colleague, has been keeping a close eye on what we're hearing from leaders in that community, the governor, among others, speaking out, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, and anything else that you can share at this time.
Yes, we are getting information from Grady Hospital. That is the Level 1 trauma center in Atlanta, and it says it has received 1 gunshot victim from the shooting at Appalachian High School. You mentioned Governor Brian Kemp. He is the governor of Georgia. He tweeted that he has authorized all resources to go out to Barrow County to help. He's urging Georgians to join his family in praying for those at the school. We do know that the Georgia Bureau of Investigation is also on the scene. We know from both Barrow County sheriffs and the GBI that 1 suspect is in custody. But that the latest we have is that at least 1 victim has been taken to Grady Hospital in Atlanta. That's a Level 1 trauma center, and so that would indicate that that person is in pretty serious condition at this point. Peter?
Ann Thompson with the very latest. Again, we'll be monitoring the situation there throughout not just the community of Winder, but the wider Atlanta area where some of those individuals, we're told at least 4 of them who were injured in this shooting are being cared for right now. As we get more information on their conditions, we're going to share that with you. We just spoke a moment ago about how President Biden has been briefed. We're learning more details. This is coming in from a senior White House official who tells NBC News in part that the president's been briefed by his Homeland Security advisor, a woman by the name of Liz Sherwood Randall, on this tragic shooting, as they describe it, at Appalachian High School. And this senior official says that the Biden administration will continue coordinating with federal, state, and local officials as we receive more information. Frank Figluzzi, Jim Kavanaugh still with us right now. Frank and Jim, I'm struck by the fact as we watch this is now as much a rite of the American fall, the start of the new school year, as is the photo before the first day of school on the doorsteps of American homes. You take a picture, you send your student off, and then sadly within days and sometimes weeks, there are then these headlines about school shootings taking place. The Surgeon General, of course, taking the unprecedented step earlier this year of declaring gun violence a public health crisis in this country. That, of course, is not unique to what happens on school campuses, but obviously those shootings get so much attention given their prevalence in this country. 4 in 10 Americans say that they have live in a household with a gun. 32% of Americans say they own one. And, of course, the right to bear arms is protected by the Second Amendment, and no one disputes that. But the challenge is how to keep it out of the hands of those individuals for whatever reason may be dangerous and may ultimately make the decision to use this on a school campus or anywhere else in their community where innocent victims are killed. Frank, to you right now about the effort and sort of the recalcitrance, frankly, of a lot of Republicans in particular to allow for more efforts, more actions to be taken to restrict access to guns, particularly as it relates to those individuals who may have violent motivations.
Yeah, I know after every one of these shootings, there's criticism that, well, you shouldn't be turning this into a political discussion. It's too soon, and we hear that criticism. But look, this is not political. The common sense gun laws and safety measures go way beyond politics. They have now become a national security issue, and we need to come to common agreement on certain things. If you talk to reasonable gun owners, they will tell you bad guys shouldn't have guns. People who are making violent threats and showing warning signs and indicators of violence shouldn't have guns. Kids shouldn't be able to get their parents' guns and bring them outside. They should be locked up safely. Many states have such laws about not permitting access to juveniles of the guns in your home. It's easy now to get gun locks. Go to your state fair, your county fair, and guess what? You'll see a booth set up. It says free gun locks. Get one. It's not hard. We should be able to come to agreement on that. But yet we seem to be politicizing virtually everything. I feel the same way about red flag laws. You know, people paint that as, oh my God, it's the government coming to take your gun away. No, it's your family and or law enforcement and or mental health professionals saying, this guy scares me, and until we figure it out, we need to temporarily take the gun away until due process can take place and a judge can say, I have a valid threat concern, or I don't, give the gun back. But that seems to be highly politicized as well. People think it's a slippery slope for the government taking your gun away. So if you're okay with this happening every school year, it's just fine with you, or you want to say, well, just arm every teacher. Let's put SWAT teams in schools. Let's have a magnetometer on the boys' room and the girls' room. You're kidding me. There's other ways we can do that, and we just seem incapable of getting to that point.
I want to bring in Dr. Annie Andrews to our conversation. She's a pediatrician, a pediatric firearm injury expert, and importantly for this conversation, a senior advisor at Everytown for Gun Safety. Annie, as we witness and learn new details about the situation taking place there in Winder, Georgia at Appalachia High School, you note that guns have become the leading killer for young people, the leading killer of young people in this country. What are we not doing to avoid these headlines from the wall-to-wall coverage and the attention as they happen again at the start of another school season, school year?
Yeah, thank you for having me. First of all, my heart is with the families in Georgia that were affected by this tragedy. We are still learning what happened in Georgia today. But you're right, this is a public health crisis that should transcend our divisive politics. But where we sit today, Georgia has the 46th weakest gun laws in the country. There are solutions to this public health crisis that the Surgeon General outlined, and those include common sense gun laws like secure storage laws that require that adult gun owners keep their guns securely stored so they can prevent child access. Laws like universal background checks and red flag or extreme risk protection orders. All of these common sense laws are supported by the vast majority of Americans and reduce the incidence of unintentional shootings, youth suicide, and the tragedy that occurs when guns show up on school grounds. I am a pediatrician, but I'm also a mom of 3 school children, and my heart breaks every every time I see these headlines. But the reality in America is back to school season is school shooting season. And until we elect lawmakers who have the moral fortitude to act in conjunction with what the majority of Americans want, we are going to continue to see these headlines day after day in America.
Back to school season is school shooting season. Let that just sink in for so many Americans as we watch this headline here. Annie, I want to ask you, Dr. Andrews, specifically about the trauma. Obviously, there are those who are physically injured in a shooting like what took place here today, but there are also so many other students. At this school alone, 1,900 students go to school on that campus. Many of them obviously won't have been directly affected by it, but they will have been mentally affected by it as they have to sort of marinate in the madness that they saw or experienced or are learning about on their own campus. What is that trauma? What is the impact on this generation of students?
The ripple effect of these tragedies is truly immeasurable. Every child that was in that building, every family member of every child that was in that building, every child in that school district, every child in this state, and frankly, all 73 million children in this country are affected by this preventable public health crisis. We have robbed our children of a sense of physical and psychological safety in one of the places where they should feel the most secure. Just last week, when my 12-year-old went back to middle school, she told me her number one fear is school shootings. We have failed our children so deeply and so devastatingly on this issue, but we have a chance to change course. If we start electing leaders who care more about America's children than they care about the gun industry and the gun lobby, we can right this wrong, we can pass common sense gun laws, and we can protect America's children in every community in this country.
Dr. Andrews, you talked earlier about how Georgia has the 46th weakest set of gun laws in this country right now. What in particular, if you can identify, are they not doing in Georgia that some states are doing that have helped better protect those communities?
The top three things are they have not expanded background checks, they don't have a secure storage law, and they don't have a extreme risk protection order or a red flag law. These three laws we know reduce the incidence of gun violence in communities. There is a direct, clear link between a state's gun law strength and the rate of firearm injury and mortality in that state. We need leaders in Georgia and leaders across this country to show moral courage and to act in a way that will protect America's children and protect all Americans in every community in this country.
Again, about 15 minutes shy of 1 o'clock on the East Coast right now. We are watching the situation as it continues to play out in Winder, Georgia, where at least 2 people have been killed, according to law enforcement officials. At least 4 others injured as a result of a school shooting that took place on this campus of nearly 2,000 students. We are told that 1 suspect is in custody based on the situation. What we're seeing there as an ambulance clears the scene right now. It appears that the situation has been, if not completely, largely resolved right now. Not the same urgency that we saw from the law enforcement officials when we first came on the air a short time ago. And Annie, to you specifically, we talk about, what more can be done in these different places and the impacts this does have on students right now. I'm struck about what families, what this conversation among families is supposed to sound like. You talk about how we have failed our students right now. I remember being at the Democratic National Convention only a matter of weeks ago, and they had a moment where there were many individuals up there who had been impacted by gun violence in this country. Among them, of course, the now very well-known former Congresswoman Gabby Giffords. And I was in the crowd near the California delegation. I saw a woman effectively wiping a tear away from her eye. I introduced myself to her, and she shared with our live audience in prime time that night her experience as a school teacher and a mom and the real fear she has right now. I was reading as you were speaking that a majority of K-12 teachers in this country, 59% of kindergarten to 12th grade teachers in this country, say they are worried about the possibility of a school shooting taking place on their campus. Nearly 1 in 5 say they are deeply worried. They are very concerned about this. This is, at this point, it is a foregone conclusion that there will be more shootings, that we will see certainly dozens more before the end of this school year.
That's right. And until we change our gun laws, this is the reality we are facing and the reality that we have designed with gun laws written by the gun lobby in this country for America's children. Yes, America's teachers are concerned about this. In my school district in South Carolina, we have stopped the bleed kits hanging on the wall, but we struggle to allow the district to distribute gun locks to our patients.
Tell us about that, the Stop the Bleed kits. I remember growing up as a student in California where our drills, what are now school shooting drills, for me was an earthquake drill, right, where you had a flashlight and an extra sweatshirt and you hid underneath your desk in case there was an earthquake one day. Now these classrooms have Stop the Bleed kits and other preparations taking place. What exists in campuses? What is that even? Is that some way to sort of just physically just to wrap an arm if it's shot or something like that until paramedics can arrive?
Yes, it's a bleeding control kit that hangs on every elementary school classroom wall in Charleston County School District. It was in my kindergarten daughter's classroom, and that is a reactive approach to this public health crisis. If we were to take a comprehensive public health approach to addressing this public health crisis, that would include preventative, proactive measures like passing common sense gun laws, like public education campaigns about the importance of secure firearm storage in the home as a means to reduce the incidence of guns showing up on school grounds. But instead, it is easier to hang Stop the Bleed kits, which frankly will do nothing to stop bleeding from an assault weapon injury. It makes some people feel better, but it is not addressing the root cause of this problem. And as a pediatrician who works every day in preventative measures to protect the children of this country, it is infuriating that politics has so deeply infiltrated this conversation that we have lost the thread. And as a result, our children are suffering. Children are being shot across this country every day. School shootings make the headlines, but it is the daily community violence that affects far more children in this country. It is youth suicide by firearm. It is unintentional shooting. Children as young as 2 can find an unsecured firearm and pull the trigger and shoot themselves or someone else. This is a public health crisis, and we need to act with the urgency that it requires.
Dr. Annie Andrews, we really appreciate your perspective and your expertise on this issue. I want to get back to my colleague Tom Winter right now. And Tom, as we speak to you, can see on screen one of these mobile incident command centers. This belongs to Gwinnett County. This, of course, did not occur in Gwinnett County, but it's a situation where they bring all resources possible from all within that community and the neighboring communities, frankly, from across the state as necessary to try to address a situation like this. Walk us through again what information you have learned and, frankly, what the questions are you're still trying to get answers to right now.
Right. Well, we're still trying to get answers as to who this suspect is or was. We don't know their condition. We don't know whether they're alive in police custody or deceased in police custody. So all we know from the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, they have said on the record and have put on their social media accounts that this person is in custody. So that is good news that at least one person is in custody. We know, obviously, that this school is on lockdown. We've been looking at the video from our affiliate in Atlanta, WXIA, and their helicopter over scene. They're obviously going to go through and talk to each one of these students. If there's any direct witnesses, be able to speak with them. That's going to be very important to their efforts, Peter. And as you noted, there's a number of different resources that are there from other counties in Georgia. On top of that, the FBI is also sending members of that agency to assist, so they'll be there to help out in any particular way. We're not hearing that they're taking over the investigation. That would mean a lot with respect to motive, but we've had no indication of that so far. And the Georgia Bureau of Investigation is kind of the statewide investigative agency, I should say, that has the ability to conduct these types of large investigations and does this quite often on a number of different crimes in Georgia. So that's what we know as far as the state of the investigation. We don't have a motive. We don't have an identity on this individual. And as you can imagine, and as we're looking at right with our own eyes right now on screen, it's a very chaotic scene. And so the initial indications are that there's at least 4 injured and perhaps as many as 2 dead. We'll see where these numbers go from here. If there's ever a time that we'd like to be wrong, it would be nice to be wrong and the numbers would come down. But that's the initial indication from folks that we're talking to. They've been briefed on what they've found on the ground so far in Georgia. And so that's what we know, Peter. And we'll continue to wait to get more from authorities there, from the people that we talk to on a daily basis. And then obviously at some point here, law enforcement will brief us on camera.
Tom Winter, we appreciate your reporting on this. I know you need to make some more calls. Please update us as you learn any more information. I want to get back now, if I can, to Frank Figluzzi in this conversation. Frank, specifically to you, walk us through what the process is like after an arrest, after a suspect is detained, taken into custody, what law enforcement need to do, what their immediate actions are, right? They try to find out if there's any larger plot, if anybody else is at risk, I trust, but they also try to get to the bottom of what motivated this individual, whether it's going into their computers, into their cell phone, going to their home, and speaking to classmates and neighbors, I trust. Walk us through what that investigative process is like.
Yep, there'll be two different groups that will be set up, an investigative group and an intelligence group. The investigative group has the task right now of doing interviews, determining, for example, who the witnesses were to this. So if the word is out that this happened on the second floor classroom number 247, they're going to pull a list of students who were in classroom 247 at the time. They're going to reach out to them. It might even start happening even on the football field, but it's going to be a little bit of work to backtrack and say who was there, who saw it. We need names, we need phone numbers. Get everybody individually in a room so they're not hearing each other's statements and start to figure out what happened. Similarly, with regard to pulling security camera footage, was this captured on tape? Can we at least see the shooter entering the school? Where did he come in? Was the school properly locked? Did someone prop a door open? Was there a backpack? Was there some package that the person was carrying that probably was the gun? They'll be doing that on the investigative team. On the intel team, here comes the background, the motive. Why did this happen? Let's get a search warrants, because right now the district attorney or state's attorney's office in Georgia is working with investigators to say, let's get a search warrant for the subject's home. If they have a vehicle, if they have a public storage locker, all of that's going to require a search warrant. And that will have to be done very safely, because a lot of times, and Jim Kavanaugh mentioned this, there's a booby trap. There's a device that's waiting for the law enforcement to show up. So interview friends, family, relatives, classmates, witnesses, teachers, guidance counselors, plus all the work going into search warrants right now.
Frank, what are some of the questions specifically that Americans watching right now, parents, should be asking their school district, their school, as they return back to teacher night, back to school night is coming to meet the teacher, back to school nights are coming up. What are some of the questions parents can be asking their schools to do everything within their power to make sure that there are precautions and protocols in place to best protect that campus as they can?
I think the number one question I'd be asking as a parent is, does this school have a threat assessment team, and who's on it? I want to hear that the guidance counselors, the school nurse, the school resource officer, and maybe an assistant principal is on this team that can assemble very quickly to assess a concern. Maybe a student, as we've seen before, has written an essay that is really troubling about maybe violence that's imminent. Maybe there's talk that's been reported to a fellow student that's now got to be dealt with. That team should be coming together and should have professional training. It's not enough to just say, yeah, we have a team. What training have they received, and what triggers a law enforcement action? Question number one. Question number two, what is the policy with regard to drills and how often they're conducted and how effective they really are? And are they done in a way that frightens students or in a way that truly offers protection to the students?
Frank Figluzzi, I appreciate your perspective and expertise. Jim Kavanaugh, before we close this hour, just want to get a take from you right now about the investigation. As you can see from the situation on the ground there, obviously law enforcement, two responsibilities. One, to deal with the students, to try to clear the classrooms, to gather any evidence, and also to try to get a better understanding of what was behind this and how it came to be.
Well, they're already interviewing the shooter. We don't know his age. We don't know if he's a student or if he's an adult. But, you know, these guys generally are spent after these kind of activities. And, you know, he's probably in there singing like he's on The Voice, telling why he did it, all his rationale for wanting to get everyone and get revenge or become infamous or whatever. It's becomes nonsensical, but it'll be somewhat of a confession if they got that quick enough. Because remember, like Frank said, half of these things result in the death of the shooter by suicide or police action or a citizen intervening. And half of them, we're going to have a prosecution. In this one, we're going to have a prosecution for murder in a state court. So it's going to be critical, like Frank said, to interview all the witnesses who were in the classroom, witnesses who saw him come in, witnesses about where the gun was.
Anyone else.
Get 35% off your first order as a preferred customer. Enjoy a 30-day money-back guarantee and free shipping. Don't wait any longer. Use discount code LOVE.
Next up, I want to be an actor.
So why don't you act like a good sister and get me some more of those baby back ribs?
I want to be a director now. Let's try a scene where you go get your own. And action.
And cut.
A lot of drama on this set.
Action. And cut.
Maybe I'll just go get wings for everybody.
Your memory is an amazing thing, but sometimes it can start to slow down. But did you know Prevagen can help keep your memory sharp? The secret is the powerful ingredient apoaquarin, originally discovered in jellyfish and found only in Prevagen. In a clinical study, Prevagen was shown to improve memory in subgroups of individuals who are cognitively normal or mildly impaired. Stay sharp and improve your memory with Prevagen. Prevagen, in stores everywhere without a prescription.
Nothing dims my light like a migraine. With Nurtec ODT, I found relief.
The only migraine medication that helps treat and prevent all in one.
To those with migraine, I see you.
For the acute treatment of migraine with or without aura and the preventive treatment of episodic migraine in adults. Don't take if allergic to Nurtec ODT. Allergic reactions can occur even days after using. Most common side effects were nausea, indigestion, and stomach pain.
It's time we all shine. Talk to a healthcare provider about Nurtec ODT from Pfizer.
Why do couples choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
I need it a little cool.
And I need it a lot of cool.
We're both cool like that.
Sleep Number does that. Actively cools and warms on each side. The Queen Sleep Number C2 smart bed is only $9.99. Shop now at a Sleep Number store near you.
Take a pea-sized amount. Apply it like a lotion. Pits, under boob, thigh folds, butt cracks, feet. This water-based cream, I'm telling you, it's invisible on the skin. It works like a dream. Why didn't someone think of this sooner?
Did you know you could save with GoodRx even if you have insurance?
I'm on Medicare. I check GoodRx because it can beat my copay. Who wouldn't like that?
Even if you have insurance, GoodRx can help you save. Another good reason to check GoodRx.
This bakery needs new equipment fast to keep up with demand. So they're going to OnDeck, the online lender that makes it easy to choose your loan and if approved, get funds as soon as the same day. Your loan is on deck.
It's a lot to be a caregiver and a daughter because you kind of have to take a step back. She's a tough chick. She doesn't want to ask for help, but I know she needs it. My mom feels I'm her daughter, and I should be able to do for her. I'm not sure if my mom notices that this is really hard on me. Getting some help would be a great relief.
From companions to helpers to caregivers, find all the senior care you need at care.com.
Introducing Splenda Stevia. Grown by farmers to help people reduce sugar. Our plants are sweetened by sunshine. Grown on our farm. Enjoyed at your table.
MSNBC Live Democracy 2024, Saturday, September 7th in Brooklyn, New York. Join your favorite MSNBC hosts at our premier live audience event. Visit msnbc.com/democracy2024 to buy your tickets today.
The NFL is coming back with a 1-2 punch. It's kickoff Thursday, Ravens, Chiefs. Everything you got! And on Friday, from Brazil, it's Packers, Eagles. Only on Peacock. 2 nights, back to back. on NBC and Peacock.
Good day. I'm Chris Jansing, live at MSNBC headquarters in New York City. And we start with that unfolding news, the details on this breaking story at another school shooting. It happened in east of Atlanta, Georgia, where law enforcement sources tell NBC News they believe 2 people are dead, 4 injured. A suspect is in custody at Appalachia High School in Barrow County. Ambulances raced to the scene as students were seen heading out of the building and into the stadium on a campus of about 1,900 students. I'm joined by NBC's Tom Winter, NBC's Marissa Parra, and MSNBC terrorism contributor and former special agent Jim Kavanaugh. Tom, get us up to speed. What do we know right now?
Sure, Chris. So a couple of things, and I want folks to understand that the information is coming from a variety of briefings that we're getting and people that we're talking to are getting. And so this information is subject to change, of course.